Hello everyone. Today I really want to talk about a lot of different topics, and they're all going to kind of surround using technology in our magical practices. I want to talk about augmented reality. I want to talk about electricity. I want to talk about the tech gods that I've been working with. Just so much chaos magic, and this video really is going to be all over the place. Before I do that, there's two things I want to say first. The first thing is this video is in collaboration with Justin, the Witch of Enchantment. Justin is one of my really good friends, and we're kind of doing a double blind collaboration, so I don't really know what... Okay, let me just start from the beginning and tell you how this even developed as a thing. So Justin and I were messaging, and he had brought up to me, he was like, oh my gosh, I have this crazy idea about an algorithm god. And before we got too deep into the conversation, I was like, holy shit, no way, because I have also been working with tech gods and doing a whole bunch of chaos shit. So we actually didn't talk about it too much further because it sounded like we were maybe working in the same sphere. And so I had said, let's do a collaboration about this. Let's do a double blind collaboration where you make a video about your own personal gnosis of what you've been doing in terms of technology and working with the algorithm god. And then I'll make a video about technology and magic as well and what I have been doing. I am really excited to see his video, and I'm also excited to see if we have similar personal gnosis. This is the juicy stuff, you guys. This is what's so fun about the magical community, is when you start bringing in your personal experimentation and really creating some sort of magical practice that best fits your psyche. It's fun to see how it matches up to other people and the personal gnosis that they have stumbled upon. So if you are not already subscribed to Justin's channel, what are you doing with your life? Go subscribe right now. I'll put his channel in the description box, and then you can check out his video on this topic as well. From what I understand, even though I don't know much about what he's filming, I think mine is going to be more of a free-flowing, unscripted video where I just kind of word vomit about this topic in general, whereas he is actually going to deep dive into his work with the algorithm god. So the second thing that I wanted to say is that this is going to be an installment of my Let's Talk Spellwork series. So if you've been on my channel for a while, I had this series. I really only got 3 episodes in, so this would be episode 4. But the premise for this Let's Talk Spellwork series is basically for me to just sit down in front of the camera, completely unscripted, because a lot of my how-to videos are heavily scripted, and just talk about a couple of topics and download some information from the collective above and see what kind of inspiration we can get for our spell work, for our magical practices. But I'm going to use this to really talk about what I've been doing in my own practice. Needless to say, this video is totally unscripted. I'm just going to be drinking tea and chatting with you all, so feel free to grab a beverage. Also, it's hotter than Satan himself in this room right now, so we're going messy bun. I can't have my hair down today, it's too much. The first thing I want to talk about is the tech gods. So before we get into that, I think I need to add my chaos magic perspective and how I view gods in general. I think we can create gods, and I know that that is a very bold statement, and there are many people that would disagree with me, but from my chaos magic perspective, if you believe in something, your belief makes it real. So people's belief in a particular god or goddess being real, that god or goddess is real to that person because of that belief. But if that person would cease to believe in that god or goddess, I don't personally believe that god and goddess has any sort of power anymore, and I personally believe that they would cease to exist without the belief and support of their followers. So I personally really enjoy the idea of egregores. I've talked about this on my channel many times, but I feel like I have to reiterate that in here to give some sort of context and perspective where I'm coming from with all of this. I believe gods are very similar to egregores, if not just straight up large egregores. So egregores are these entities that have been created by a collective body of people, either intentionally or unintentionally. I've never had my hair up in a messy bun before filming, so this looks weird to me. This looks so weird to me. So my personal belief from the chaos magic perspective is that gods can both be real and not real. I don't believe in any sort of objective reality. I believe that our minds create the reality that we experience and the reality that we see. So if you believe in something, again, it's real to you in your dimension of reality. But if you don't believe in something, it ceases to have any sort of power and any sort of effect on you. What I just said is so controversial, and again, there are so many people that disagree with me and the chaos magic perspective, and that's totally fine. Again, I just want to give context when I say creating a god. This is what I mean, is creating this idea, this thought form, this energy entity, whatever you want to call it, and then presenting it to the public to see if anyone else resonates with this and wants to feed their belief, their personal gnosis into it as well, to make it this godlike energy. So anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. quite a bit here. So I have reached this point with my personal gnosis in regards to technology and weaving it in with our magic, because I could sit here and say technology is terrible, evil, it takes us away from nature, it keeps us detached from real human beings, and whilst I agree with a lot of those statements, I do think that it kind of detaches us from nature and from our primitive selves. I also think that living in a day and age where there is a lot of technology, it can be useful, just depending on the scenario. I'm not saying that the use of technology in all rituals and spells is appropriate, because there are times, especially when you're working with certain spirits, where I don't think it would be appropriate to use any sort of technological interference. However, if we were to harness the energy of the internet and technology in general, I have come to identify 3 different gods. There are 3 different gods, egregores, or maybe not even egregores at this point, maybe just thought forms. Let's go with thought forms that could potentially become gods. I think these gods have been created unintentionally, but the 3 gods that I have been working with is the web god, the cloud god, and the algorithm god. It's such a cool concept to think of technology as a whole pantheon of different gods, and under each god you could even have different spirits that assist you with certain tasks. So you can potentially use it to have things work in your favor. Say you're a content creator and you want to work with the algorithm god and give it offerings like you would any other god, so that it can help you boost your content creation and actually be seen and pushed by the algorithm more. Or maybe you want to work with the web god, the one that rules over the internet and the webs in general, to help you with protection from spammers and scammers. I think there's so many different ways that we can work with the web god, the cloud god, and the algorithm god, and also the spirits underneath each one. So I wanted to talk about these 3 gods that I have created in my mind, and this was the crazy part when Justin and I were talking. He is specifically deep diving into the algorithm god, whereas I'm kind of building a pantheon of different gods and different spirits for separate tasks. But mine is not as deep as Justin's video. I haven't even seen it yet, but I know it's just gonna be fantastic, and I'm so excited to watch it. So the web god, let's start with that. The web god, in my mind, rules over communication in general. It's your online presence, it's the information exchange from one place to another. You can think of it like a giant web where you have all of this communication and news passing from one area to another and back again. The web god rules over online communities. So if you have an online coven, or if you're part of a Facebook group, or witches, occultists, whatever it is, the web god could be worked with to improve communication, to improve your ability to connect with other people, or to improve your digital presence overall. And again, like I mentioned beforehand, you could even petition the web god to create some sort of firewall or some sort of protection for you when you're in these online spaces, because there's a lot of scammers out there, there's a lot of bots, there's a lot of fake stuff, and having the web god on your side might really be helpful. And I think this web god has been created unintentionally, because it's something we can't really see it, but we know it's there, right? We can't actually see the internet. We can go to our computer, of course, and log onto the internet, and we can talk to other people, but we can't actually see with our own naked eyes the web that connects us all together in online spaces. And so many people have fed their ideas and intentions and energy into the internet itself. It has become a beast that is sometimes often completely out of control. I fully acknowledge that. And sometimes news travels too fast, or there's a lot of misinformation, and we are living in scary times when we talk about the news and being unsure who to trust and things of that nature. So there are pros and cons to the internet becoming such a large influence in our lives, but I do also think that playing into the benefits, the positive side of the web god, can really give us a better handle on our internet experience. So of course, I believe that there are some spirits underneath the web god that could help you with particular things. There would be a spirit in particular that helps you with your digital presence. So this is dealing with your Instagram profile, your YouTube, your Facebook, etc. So if you wanted to build your Instagram, or if you wanted to prevent people from DMing you asking for readings all the time, because you know those scammers on Instagram that are like, oh, hello sunshine, glorious day, let me scam you out of a tarot reading. No. What you could do instead is petition that spirit that works underneath the web god to help get those people out of your inbox. I don't have my entire pantheon perfected yet as far as all of the spirits that go underneath each of these 3 gods, but it is something I'm consistently working on. And you know, it doesn't all have to be the same for everyone. I think that we can kind of find our own personal gnosis with this, because we're creating something brand new. This is completely uncharted territory. The second god though is the cloud god. So if you think of the cloud, you know, especially if you have an iPhone or something, you upload something to the cloud and it stores it for you, rather than having having it on your digital device. So the cloud god rules over uploading information, downloading information, and just data storage in general. So I would really use the cloud god to download information from the collective. So let's say, for example, this is something that I have used recently. I wanted to find some really good, credible information about a particular subject. And so what I did is I did a little petition to the cloud god, asking the cloud god to assist me in accessing this information and downloading it into my brain. It's so hard to find credible sources sometimes that I think this is such an important god, or egregore, whatever we're calling it, to work with, because it allows us to be able to navigate our way to find the information that we actually want. Whereas, you know, the web god rules over connection and talking to other people and your online presence and just the entire web as a whole. The cloud god is very specific in information. The cloud god specifically rules over information and the access to that information. And then the third god, the algorithm god, for me is really this god that governs over efficiency, automation, artificial intelligence. I kind of view the algorithm god as a flowchart, or this really intelligent geometric pattern, because it takes all of the things that you like, that you don't like, etc., and then it pushes things to you that it thinks that you might like, or that you might enjoy, or that you might engage in for longer. And so again, harnessing the power of the algorithm god to really boost your presence as a content creator, or maybe even to hide from certain brands and celebrities that are pushed in the algorithm. I have not worked with this god as much. I've worked with the web god and the cloud god, but I have not done an official thing with the algorithm god. So that's why I'm excited to see what Justin's gonna do, because I have no idea what his personal gnosis is around the algorithm god, but I think it's a really interesting concept. Especially on social media platforms, it's really difficult for smaller creators to even be seen. And I personally, this is a total, you know, side note, but we're having tea together, so whatever. Side note rant, I love smaller creators because I find that they're a little less filtered and a little more unhinged. And I like that because here's the thing, when you become a bigger content creator, you learn the things that you can say and the things that you can't say. And I know everyone's gonna be like, no, just say whatever you wanna say. But until you're in that position where you're talking to thousands of people and getting the feedback from thousands of people, it's just so hard to explain. There are things that I just straight up won't talk about on this channel anymore. And nobody in the world can convince me to talk about it. When I was a much smaller channel, I could be a lot more open about certain subjects because there was a smaller audience and I could have actual conversations in the comments and, you know, we could connect that way. But when there's thousands of people watching your channel, really, it's just not worth it. It's so not worth it. I don't consider myself a large content creator by any means. I've talked to a lot of content creators that are much larger than my small channel, but they all say the same thing. It's just not worth the energy and the effort to put yourself out there and then to deal with all the conversations in the comments from random usernames that don't really give a shit about you and just want to hate watch you. Not worth it. Not worth it. Anyways, that's my whole little spiel, is that I really like when I can find smaller creators. But again, back to the algorithm god, it's so hard to find those small creators because algorithm just continuously pushes the same people, the same conversations, the same large content creators. And it's so frustrating for the people that are just starting out that genuinely have so much to say. So I think working with this algorithm god to find creators whose voices that you want to uplift, and then also as a content creator, can be really powerful. So I would love to hear all of your thoughts on everything I just said. I think it's really cool to potentially create a technology pantheon. And I'm not saying the web god, the cloud god, and the algorithm god are the only gods in this pantheon. Those are just the only gods that I personally have identified and have begun working with. So I would encourage you, if you have any ideas, share them in the comments below. What other gods do you think could be part of this pantheon, and what other spirits below could we petition to help us with just navigating this whole digital age that we're in? Not as hot anymore, so the hair is coming down. One other thing that I wanted to add to this section before we move on is that I think it's important to think about correspondences for each of these gods. So for example, I've already identified the concepts that are associated with the web god, the cloud god, and the algorithm god, but I think it's also important to think about what symbolism is associated with each god, what colors may be associated with them. Are there any animals that could be associated with these gods, so that we can start to communicate with them and notice their signs and symbols symbolisms in everyday life. For example, when I was working with Medusa, anytime I saw a seashell come up really randomly where a seashell should not be, I knew that for me personally, that was a sign that Medusa was reaching out to me. And signs and symbolisms, I've talked about this as well, it's so personal. Yes, there are certain things that we could say are a correspondence of a particular god, for example, Medusa and her relation to the sea and the ocean, but not everyone that works with Medusa would see a seashell and then take it as a sign from Medusa. So I think there's a lot of play here. I think that we can have signs and symbolism that relate to these gods that are dependent on the practitioner. For me personally, when I think of animals, for example, if I'm thinking of the web god, I really think of birds. Birds in flight, birds representing communication, the travel from one place to another. So when working with the web god, I might incorporate some bird-like correspondences, maybe some feathers to represent the air element. For the cloud god, the animal that really presents itself to me is the owl, because it's the one that holds all the information. The owl represents the cloud's ability to really store and manage all of this knowledge. For the algorithm god, I envision bees. Bees and their hive, kind of like a hive mind, the way that they create this beautiful network within themselves, the honeycombs that create this beautiful geometric pattern. So the algorithm god is definitely bees for me. So the web god, birds in general, sparrows in flight, what have you, the cloud god being the owl, and the algorithm god being bees and their hive mind. Okay, things are flowing as I'm talking about this, and I'm thinking of pantheons where they typically have, I don't even know how to explain this, but where they have the god in charge and then they have other gods sitting below. For example, Zeus. Zeus was the king of gods in ancient Greek mythology, and then you had other gods below the king of gods that kind of governed over different things. That's how I view the web god. The web god is like the king of the technology gods. But then you have the cloud god governing over the upload and download of information, and you have the algorithm god governing over the flowcharts that we create, the realities that we shape, and artificial intelligence. Moving on from the tech gods, I want to talk about electricity in general. And though electricity is not really under the umbrella of technology, it's kind of technology adjacent. You need electricity in order for technology to be functional. This idea of using electricity in your craft when you're doing your rituals and spell work, again, I don't think that it is appropriate in all rituals, but I do think it's something interesting that we can play with. So I have a book club, and in our last round of book club, not this round, but last round, we read Grimoires, A History of Magic books by Owen Davies. And we had this whole conversation about when things transitioned from carving things into stone to then writing things on paper to then typing things up on a computer, and does the magic get lost over time? And so we had a whole debate, because the instinct is to say, well, yeah, the magic kind of does get lost, but does it? Or does that energy just transform into something different that we just don't know fully how to harness yet? So I have been using my tendril technique to tap into electricity or devices such as this, just to see what the energy feels like during ritual. And if you're not familiar, I'll just go over it super briefly. I'm not going to reteach the tendril technique in this video because I've talked about it many times, but it's basically where you visualize tendrils coming off of your fingertips and going deeper into your environment, and you allow those tendrils to latch on to an object or maybe just the environment in general. You visualize the particles from that particular object or environment attaching onto your tendrils, and then you draw the tendrils back up into your hand and you sense that energy. This is a very basic energy sensing technique, and you get to feel that energy and see if it makes you buzz with excitement. Is it instigating, or is it a little bit more subduing? Does it make you tired, dizzy, confused, etc.? It's just a way of seeing how that energy affects you and what you can sense about it. So I have been doing this with my devices recently to really kind of play around with that and really try to absorb the energy of electricity and work with that as its own separate type of energy. And I will say it makes me buzz like I drank 3 cups of coffee. So I think this is something really cool that people can play around with that I don't hear anybody talking about. I will say, I think Foolish Fish, if you are not familiar with his channel, I will link his video down below where he talked about, and I can't quite remember, but there was a video where he talked about technology and spirits and how technology might interfere and be not so great in a ritual when you're trying to work with spirits. And I think he brings up a really interesting point. I don't know if I 100% agree with all the personal gnosis in the video, but this is really where the deliciousness of our community comes in, where we can have these conversations and see if we agree, if we disagree, and what our different experiences have been. But I do agree that I think technology does interfere with spirits spiritual activity in some way. I don't 100% know exactly how that is, but I think in some rituals where you're invoking or evoking spirits, maybe it's not the best idea to use a ton of technology in the room or tap into electricity, etc. So that's not necessarily what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is those rituals where you just want to play, you want to do some personal experimentation, tap into just the raw energy of electricity and see how it feels to you on a metaphysical level. Okay, let me just clarify. Don't stick your finger in a socket or something, okay? I'm not talking about physically, I'm talking about energetically and metaphysically. So let's talk about other ways to incorporate technology into your spell work and your rituals. Besides the obvious of creating virtual altars, virtual shrines, creating sigils through a sigil generator, I feel like these are things that people have already talked about before. Of course, if you're someone that cannot visualize, sometimes it can be really helpful to create digital versions of what your mind palace would look like or your inner temple. Or if you're somebody that's in the broom closet that has really no space to practice, you can create your altar virtually and then pull that up every time that you sit down to do some sort of ritual. But I want to talk about Discord next because it's such a cool app. There's so much versatility and I have been really experimenting with it a little bit further. So if you're not familiar with Discord, you might want to skip this timestamp. The way I would explain Discord is like really organized chat rooms. So you create a server for yourself or for a group of people, you all share that server, and then within that server you have all of these what are called channels where people can have different chats on each channel. And so you're organizing conversations like this channel will be all about green witchcraft, this channel will be all about ceremonial magic, and so on and so forth. And then people can chat in the respective topics to keep all of the conversations organized. But I really like the idea of using Discord in a magical sense. First of all, as a grimoire. I know that there are some people that have created a server just for themselves to have a virtual grimoire, and so they have all of their channels dedicated to different aspects of their grimoire. So maybe they'll have one channel dedicated to elemental magic, they'll have one channel dedicated to tarot, one channel dedicated to astrology, and then they'll store all of that information in each of these channels. I feel like using Discord in this way kind of falls under the cloud god because you are downloading and uploading information, you're storing information. However, if it becomes more of like a networking conversational server, then I feel like that falls under the web god because we're talking about communication and online presence and people sharing information back and forth. But if the Discord server is just for you to upload information and to store information, you could totally work with the cloud god for this. But I also like Discord because I've been in virtual covens before and I'm in a study group now. We don't necessarily call it a coven because we're definitely not a traditional coven, but what I find really cool is that even though we meet mostly virtually and we have a Discord server where we have all of these conversations, each of the channels, the names of the channels have magical significance. So for example, you could name a particular channel after a plant spirit that corresponds to a certain energy that you want to bring into that particular chat room space. And then the entire server is basically a garden of all of these different channels with different plant spirit names. For us, we have an academy, so we have created our Discord server to be more like an academy, and each channel is a different room in the academy, which is really cool because, for example, we have the hearth, which is where we all gather to just talk about life events and it's basically equivalent to a general chat where we just kind of talk about anything and everything. But then we have the kitchen, we have the observatory, we have the apothecary, and all of these channels are themed for different conversations. So in the observatory, that is where I talk a lot about different astrological events happening in the sky. We can talk about our natal charts, etc. But the Discord server itself becomes an egregoric being. All of these channels that are labeled different rooms in the house, this Discord server is our house. It's our home that we share virtually because we're obviously in different houses across different, time and space. And so it's our internet virtual house that we are feeding our energy into. And I think there's so much versatility with Discord and the way that you can set up your servers. And though with this topic I could go on and on, the last thing I wanted to talk about is augmented reality. So if you don't know what augmented reality is, it's also called AR for short. It's basically where you can overlay all of these imaginary symbols and images and pictures over the top of your existing reality. So there are apps that you can download on your phone. I'll actually show you mine in just a second, where you take your phone and you put it in front of your living room or your entry room, let's say. And on that app, you can add in images or pictures of things and you can overlay it to enhance the space's mystical energy. So this is excellent for people that can't actually have a bunch of like mystical physical items in their space. I think this would probably be more helpful if I just show you. So So we'll go into this app here. It's just called Augment. I just downloaded this app, so it's not my favorite. It was just an app that I'm downloading to kind of show you what I mean by this. So I'm just going to explore the public gallery so I can kind of show you what I'm talking about. So with apps like this, there's these pre-programmed images, but sometimes the apps will let you upload your own stuff as well. But I'm just gonna go into cultural heritage. I'm gonna scroll down. Let's see, there's a shrine down here. There's a Buddha head. Let's do the Buddha head. So we'll click on that. And then it shows your environment. So there's my environment behind me. And you find a spot. It looks like this is the perfect spot where it'll allow you to create that image. This is so hard to show you guys. But there is now a tiny little Buddha head right there on my floor. It's not actually on my floor, it's just through the app. And you can move the Buddha head around. I wish it was a little bit bigger. Let me try something else. There we go, I made the Buddha head a little bit bigger. So you can see that Buddha head sitting right there. So you can create a whole virtual environment that makes your space so much more magical and mystical. And think about the possibility of adding in sigils and other important symbolism that you can have everywhere. Okay, that was probably not the best way to show you augmented reality, but bear with me, you guys. I'm not the best when it comes to like editing that stuff in. So I hope that you can get the point from that. I feel like this is so helpful for people that really struggle to visualize, because if you're not a visualizer, these apps can help you see your mundane reality in a completely different lens. So I hope this video has been really interesting food for thought. I would love to hear your opinions, your own personal gnosis in the comments below. How cool would it be if we all created a pantheon together of gods and different sub-spirits to work with? If we're living in the age of technology, we might as well make use of it, right? We might as well do something positive about it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in another video soon.